in the ISD Professional Development Center, 1908 Winans Road, San Antonio, Texas, 78234. My name is Willie White, and as the board president, I have the pleasure of calling this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Board of Trustees being held in front of the public, which is not the same as a public hearing or meeting for the public. The board and the district appreciate interest of our constituents and welcome you to our meetings. However, in our board trustee meetings, only the board members and members of the administration who are providing information to the board should be speaking during the meeting, except for the portion of the meeting designated for public input. Should any audience members have questions during the meeting, please do not interrupt the meeting or interject your questions or comment in the middle of the meeting. Instead, please raise your questions or concerns with the appropriate person at the conclusion of the meeting so that the board can conduct a board business without interruption. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. For this reason, I ask you please silence your cell phones, and if you must take calls during the meeting, please quietly step outside. We will now begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and pledge allegiance to the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And folks, since we have STAR testing going on this week, there will be no inspirational moment speech this week, so that's why.
Agenda item 2 is the quorum. With 4 of the 5 board members present, I declare we have a quorum. Let the record reflect the following board members are present. Vice President, Mr. Richard Kling. Secretary, Dr. Latoya Sizer. Board member, Ms. Andrea Nicholas. President, Mr. Woolley White. Not present, Colonel Retired Aaron Braxton II. Agenda item 3. Board Policy BD Local sets out the requirements for the public comments portion of a meeting. During regular board meetings, public comments may address any topic, whether posted on the agenda or not. During special call meetings or work sessions, public comments are limited to the items posted on the agenda only. To participate in the public comment portion of a meeting, members of the public must sign their name on the sign-in sheets no later than 5 minutes before the meeting is scheduled to begin and shall indicate the topic about which they wish to speak. The sign-in sheet will be placed on the podium in the Professional Development Center located at 1908 Winans Road, San Antonio, Texas, 78234. Public comments guidelines. A meeting of the Board of Trustees is a meeting of the board in public, not a public meeting, which is to say that the audience participation at the board meeting is limited to the public comment section of the meeting. At all other times during the meeting, the audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on matters being considered by the board. During the public comment, the board may furnish specific factual information or recite policy, but by law, the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda for that meeting, and any deliberations or decisions by the board will occur during the discussion of the agenda item and not during the public comment. During regular board meetings, the public comments may address any topic with whether posted on the agenda or not. During special call meeting or work sessions, the public comments are limited to the items posted on the agenda only. In order to participate in the public comment portion of a meeting, members of the public must sign up with the presiding officer or designee no later than 5 minutes before the meeting is scheduled to begin and shall indicate the topic about which they wish to speak. Individuals may be given up to 3 minutes to speak during the public comment. However, when necessary for effective meeting management or to accommodate large numbers of individuals wishing to address the board, the presiding officer may take adjustments to the public comment procedures, including adjusting when the public comment will occur during the meeting, reordering the agenda items, deferring public comment on non-agenda items, continuing agenda items to a later meeting, providing expanded opportunity for the public comment or adjusting the time allowed for each speaker. However, no individual shall be given less than 1 minute per person to make public comments. A member of the public who addresses the board through a translator shall provide the translator. A member of the public who addresses the board through a translator must be given at least twice the amount of time as a member of the public who does not require a translator. The presiding officer or designee shall determine whether a person addressing the board has attempted to solve a matter administratively through the resolution channels established by policy. If not, the person's presentation shall be halted and the person shall be referred to the appropriate policy to seek resolution. DGBA local employee complaints, FNG student or parent complaints, GF public comments. There shall be no disruptions of the meeting by the members of the audience. If at least one warning from the presiding officer, an individual continues to disrupt the meeting by his or her words or actions, the presiding officer may request the assistance from law enforcement officials to have the individual removed from the meeting. And once the individual is escorted off the premises, the person is not permitted to return during the meeting. Individuals with signs, props, or displays shall sit in the last row of chairs or along the back wall so as not to interfere with the meeting or with the public observation of the meeting. During public comment, individuals shall not use the name of district employees or district students unless the student about whom they are speaking is their own child. Agenda item 4. Corrections. We have one person signed up for our public comments. Is Mrs. Jen Chambers here? Okay, Ms. Chambers, you have the floor, and Ms. Dr. Snyder, you got that yet?
Ms. Marquez.
Ms. Marquez?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Marquez.
Yes. That's quite the buildup for public comments. Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to briefly address the 2024-2025 Board of Trustees meeting dates that were recently posted on the district website. While I was reviewing the agenda for this meeting, I noticed they were there, and also noted that the time for the meetings is the same as this current year at 11 o'clock for the majority of the meetings, excluding 2, the budget hearing on July 30th and the superintendent evaluation in January. Those are the only evening sessions of the Board of Trustees, as I'm sure you're aware. In recent months, many parents have expressed a lot of concern about accessibility and transparency and being able to participate with the Board of Trustees meeting, even just to observe. The current structure really closes the door not only to working parents, but also to faculty and staff and our students who may want to attend meetings, either to raise an issue or concern, or just to simply observe how decision-making occurs within our district. So I really think that there's an opportunity for improvement here to think about adjusting maybe some of the times throughout the year to evening sessions to afford more people the opportunity to come and see how decisions are made, or perhaps to schedule more forums designed for feedback, such as public hearings. As of now, all of the meetings I saw, I think except for the budget hearing and evaluation, are not public hearings. So in terms of members of the public, really being able to access and see what happens here, how are decisions made for our students, our faculty and staff, just encourage you to really think about, is there any opportunity here to adjust the schedule to allow more people to participate? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 4, meeting for the regular business meeting of March 28, 2024. The superintendent recommends approving the minutes from the regular business meeting of the Board of Trustees held on March 28, 2024 as submitted. Are there any questions, comments, board members?
No, sir.
If not, do we have a motion for approval?
Mr. President, I recommend the board approve the minutes from the regular business meeting of the Board of Trustees held on March 28, 2024 as submitted.
For a second,
I second.
all in favor?
I, Richard Clayton.
I, Andrea Nicholas.
I, Latoya Sizer.
I, Willie White, majority vote, the motion passes. Agenda item 5 is a closed meeting as authorized by the Texas Government Code Section 551.074, personnel matters. The time is now 11:11 a.m. We'll move into closed session. Next meeting, excuse me, so that all members are present and have an opportunity to vote.
Mr. President, do you want to say next opportunity? Should we hold for our outcome?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks. Agenda item number 7 is the superintendent's report.
Mr. President, board members, faculty, staff, community, good morning and welcome. As you very well know, this time of the year, there's a lot of moving parts going on. I cannot believe next month, around this time, we'll be getting ready for graduation,
Wow.
a new class in summer. So we have a lot of things going on, not a lot of things to comment on this month. We have a few reports. Dr. Shanetta, you have the comment. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning. A little bit about teacher and learning department. We're in the midst of TEA testing season. Fun times. If you're a praying person, please pray for our teachers and kids. And so we are in the midst of that. And so, and again, we don't teach to the test. We teach the standards, and we've been doing it all year. And our kids are ready, and they're going to show what they know. So.
Cool.
So fingers crossed. And then we're also in the midst of planning for next school year. As Dr. Bates said, graduation's coming. So you'll hear about our plans for next year a little bit on some of our agenda items coming up. And that is all I have for. So.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez, good morning.
Morning.
All right, like Dr. Bates says, it's definitely a busy time, but we've been having a lot of fun activities, events, and also students are learning, which is what we always look forward to. Just a couple of awards that I wanted to let you all know about. You've heard Mr. McGrath mentioned several times here during our high school inspirational moments. Mr. McGrath received our Excel Award from KINS 5. It hasn't aired yet, so I know we're on YouTube Live, but don't, they're gonna air it pretty soon. So they're gonna recognize him on KINS 5. Our Teacher of the Year, we also have our Teacher of the Year for this year is one of our 4th grade teachers, Mrs. Riley. She's a military spouse as well, so it was really neat seeing that and giving her that award. And then of course they go from this step and they apply at a further level as well. That application is due in June. April, of course, Month of the Military Child. We had our Spirit Week last week. Kids love dressing up. The staff maybe loves it more than the kids, but it was a fun week. We also had Camo come out from Purple Luck organization. They came out on Monday during dismissal. Kids love that, especially at the elementary level. Our last Thursday, man, it was busy. We started the day before 7 a.m. With our military personnel. They were welcoming our kids in the morning, getting off the bus, car riders, all that good stuff. We also had Ray Fell on that day. This is all on the same day. Ray Fell at 2 p.m. came out, and we had that out in the front lawn. And then we also finished the day with our STEAM night, and that was in the evening. Great partnerships with AEC, local community partners, fun event, great turnout, so we always love having our parents out for those events. At the elementary level, of course, our kids also love book fair. First day of book fairs today. Feel free to come by next week. We have 2 family nights right after school on April 23rd and April 24th, and we have those afternoon events so that we can get parents out to come buy some books and some more learning material for their students. Last thing I have to report on is just, of course, end of the year. I'll make sure to share these dates with the district leadership and board. We have field trips coming up, a lot more festivities, drama performances, field day. The kids and staff love that, so I'll make sure to share those dates and times with all of you. And that's all I have to report from the elementary this month.
Well, did you say the 23rd and the 24th, or the 24th, 25th?
For our book fair family nights are the 23rd and the 24th
Oh, okay.
in the afternoon.
Okay.
So next week.
And Ms. Riley, you said was nominated for Teacher of the Year?
She was picked as our elementary
She
teacher
was
of the year,
picked,
so
right.
she's already our teacher of the year
Okay,
for the elementary this school year.
got it.
If you remember, our Teachers of the Year are through TASA, Texas Association of School Administrators, and then they go on to compete at the regional level for elementary and secondary, and then the region will select for the state, and then the state will select for the nation.
Cool. Yep,
We'll see.
that's
So we'll see.
a good process.
Mhm.
All right,
Cool.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Dr. Cerna, I want to kind of give a plug about Dr. Cerna. He doesn't know this. You know, this past week was his birthday.
Oh!
And if you know Dr. Cerna, he's a big Longhorn fan, but all of a sudden, the day of his birthday, I think something happened, a paradigm shift. A lot of A&M stuff was in his office, and he was wearing an Aggies t-shirt, so hopefully he's kind of went to the better side versus the Longhorns, the Aggies, so no pressure, Dr. Cerna.
Hey, my minutes are up. I'm done, guys. That means that, it just didn't mean something good when they try to humiliate you like that up in the campus. It's doing this whole office. I had about 150 balloons in the office. I had stuff hanging off the ceiling. It was
That's cold-hearted.
all Aggie stuff. And they played the fight song, and yeah, what a start. So it was fun. It was really nice of them to do that. So, you know, the whole campus and the students wore their Aggie gear that day.
Oh, good stuff.
So, that's it. I have 360 plus days till that happens again. Any questions? I'll go through my report quickly, and I actually have athletics. It's real
Yes,
exciting
yes.
for athletics. Just real quickly on the Cole side, we do have an esports signing day on Friday. So Friday the 19th, tomorrow, about 9:15 a.m., which is our homeroom period, you're going to have 2 students sign on to join the esports teams at St. Mary's University. So St. Mary's University will be out here, and we'll do an official signing for those 2 students. It's Chelsea Tanaka and Xander Castillo.
Do you have a time on it?
9:15 a.m. in the media center. April 19th and 20th, we do have our Cole Theater. It's a musical theater group. They're performing at the Fort Sam Houston Theater on Stanley Road. That'll be tomorrow at 7 p.m. And then Saturday, you have 2 shows, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. again. They're doing Little Mermaid Junior. And it's a musical, so it's pretty fun. You can bring your family, it's free. Just come on down, have a seat. It's in the theater's beautiful. Just enjoy that show, maybe an hour and a half.
That's the Fort Sam Houston Theater, right?
Yes, ma'am. Fort Sam Houston Theater on Stanley Road. Just drop by and you'll see all of our students and families out there. Next Friday, Cole band, cheer, student council students are going to be in the Battle of Flowers Parade. We announced it a few times, but we'll have a float. It's called Picnic in the Park float. We have Barbies and Kens on the float, and it's a contest. You can win some prizes from the Battle of Flower group if you have a great float or a water wagon or whatever you enter into that event. It's pretty fun. It's about a 3.5 mile walk, pretty slow walk too. And you can watch it on TV, I bet too. So it's a good event. It showcases our school, and I think it's every 4 or 5 years we get invited, so it's not every year for us. May 14th, we have Academic C Awards. That's for grades 9 through 11. Academic C Awards. Athletic C Awards is May 15th. So let me go through that again. May 14th, 6 p.m., Academic C Awards. May 15th, Athletic C Awards. They're both at 6 p.m. in the Cole Gym. So 2 nights in a row, we have award ceremonies.
And we'll get those dates to you.
Yeah. May 15th, we also have the middle school awards. That's at 2:15 p.m. That's during the day. So at 2:15, middle school awards, that'll be in the Cole Gym. They're all clustered because we set the gym up once, and then we all run through, use that setup. And we try to stack and cluster so parent schedules aren't just spread all over the place too. It's a challenge. May 20th, Senior Awards. So May 20th, we have Senior Only Awards. That's at about 9 a.m. in our gym also. That'll be the seniors, and they'll get to wear their cap gown. They get they get their cords, their stoles, so they pick up a lot of their accolades and just different graduation gear that you'll see them wearing on graduation night. So Senior Awards, Monday, May 20th, 9 a.m. We'll send that out like Dr. Bates said.
Okay.
Graduation is May 24th, 6 p.m., Trinity University. That'll get sent out to you too. You'll get an invitation from us letting you know about that. April 4th, going backwards, we had a district UIL academic contest. We placed 3rd in the district.
When we hosted the contest, that takes 2 days, and we have a pretty good amount of students moving on to regional. So it's a list, I don't go through the list, but we have students moving on to regional, and that's April 27th. So you'll get another notice later about how our kids did at that level. It's at Davenport High School. So we'll have that going on end of April. There's always something going on, you know, especially in spring. Athletics is just the award ceremony. That was the only thing we were reporting for athletics, was that their award ceremony is May 15th, 6 p.m. Grades 9 through 12. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Cool, thank you.
Dr. Sultan, she will not be here today. She's actually on her campus since she's the only administrator for STAR testing, so there was no report for her this month. Finance and Operations, Ms. Novak, you didn't have it, that's what I thought, I apologize. Ms. Marquez, nothing, and Dr. Cerna gave the athletic report. Mr. President, board members, that is my report for the month of April.
Cool, thank you, Dr. Bates. And staff. Agenda item 8 is Board of Trustee comments. Board members, any board members have any comments they'd like to make, share?
I say I do. I just wanted to give you some feedback on the, we went to a conference, the 5th through the 8th of April, school board conference, and the sessions that they offered were really some great sessions. We were able to give a lot of feedback on different questions and kind of network with some of the other folks. And it wasn't just a Texas thing. We actually were in New Orleans, so it was across the United States, different people there. And like I said, they offered sessions dealing with governance, dealing with how to, to build trust and different relationships. Just seeing and hearing some of the things that other school boards were experiencing made me want to do like this for us. Because we really, some of the things that were discussed and shared were eye-openers, and I really appreciated the opportunity to be there representing Fort Sam at the conference. It was a good thing.
And I just want to piggyback on to what Ms. Nicholas said. It was a great conference. There were so many interesting sessions that we had to divide and conquer on some of them and share notes. But one thing I want to say is we did collaborate with other districts, heard some stories, some best practices, as well as some challenges that they're dealing with. And like Ms. Nicholas said, I am really humbled and proud to be part of this district and proud of the leadership of this district, because we all know that leadership sets the tone. And so when the leaders are all jacked up, it trickles down and it impacts the children, the families, you name it. And so I want to publicly thank Dr. Bates for the way you lead your cabinet and your staff, because we can see the difference. And when things are chaotic, we can see that and the kids can feel it. And so I just want to thank you and everybody else as part of the staff and the district for what you do every day to take care of our kids. And so some of the stories we heard were horror stories. And I tell you, I'm thankful that we don't have those. So that's all I have to say.
Cool. Thank you.
One last thing.
Thank you.
We had an opportunity to sit and listen to Ruby Bridges.
Yeah.
Her keynote was like, really? And it really came down to one of her statements that she made was, it's just people. We need to learn people, and people need to be responsible. So that opportunity was great too. I thought she was gonna look a little different, because in my head, I'm equating her back to the integrating that school and try to give her more years than what she had. So I did appreciate her keynote. It was really good.
Cool. Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments, board members? All right. Thanks for the share there. Agenda item 9 is the financial report for March 2024. The superintendent recommends approving the financial report for March 2024 as submitted. Board members, any comments, concerns, questions? Hearing none, is there a motion for this agenda item?
Mr. President, I recommend adopting the financial report for March 2024 as submitted.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
I, Latoya Sizer.
I, Richard Kling.
I, Andrea Nicholas.
I, William White. Majority vote, the motion passes. Agenda item 10 is the board resolution in support of a fair and transparent accountability system. The superintendent recommend adopting the resolution in support of the fair, transparent accountability system.
Dr. Chanel, you have the call.
In your packet, there's a memo that I sent to Dr. Bates explaining the purpose of this resolution. And so and the resolution is there for you to have viewed also. But basically, you guys know that there is a lawsuit going on. Several school districts have sued TEA about a unfair accountability system. We've explained to you some of the changes. One of the major ones was they jumped our CCMR rating to an 88% to get an A, and that was based on seniors that had already graduated, and that is effective this past year on our accountability. And so there's various changes that were made. And so this resolution seeks to express the solidarity with the lawsuit's objectives, even though we chose not to join that lawsuit due to diverse reasons, and that we are seeking board approval for this accountability resolution. Surrounding school districts have done it also. I know Lackland, I saw Lackland Northeast, Northside, several of them, but that we are asking for this board to pass this resolution. Anything else, Dr. Bates, you'd like to add?
Well, and it's not like we're trying to
No.
get away from accountability. We embrace accountability, but we want it on the same playing field, level field. We can't do things about seniors that are already graduated, and talking to high performing districts, my colleague and friend over at Alamo Heights, if they were to go by the accountability system set in place this past year, they would go from an A to, I believe, a C or a D. That's not right for our kids, changing the game like that. So we want it to be fair and transparency. So that's why we're coming to the board for this resolution as we move forward.
Yeah, in support of a fair and transparent accountability system is what we're asking.
Board members have any comments at this time? Hearing none, is there a motion for this agenda item?
Mr. President, I recommend the board adopt the resolution in support of a fair and transparent accountability system.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
I, Richard Kling.
I, Andrea Nicholas.
I, Latoya Sizer.
I, Willie White. Majority vote, the motion passes. Please get over that over there. Yes, sir. Agenda item 11, the Texas Education Agency, TEA, 2023-2024, Fort Sam Houston ISD Interim Assessment Data Report. This is a report only, no action is needed.
Ms. Fuller, good afternoon. You have the call.
Good afternoon. Okay, good afternoon. I'm gonna just go over how our students did on the last round of interims, which was mostly given in February. We had a couple in March as well, and let you know how the students performed. As always, we start with why we give them and what TEA's purpose is behind the interims. And just to remind you that these are projections. They're based on probabilities and algorithms, etc., about how the kids are going to perform when they get to the final STAR, which started on Tuesday, and goes through the next 3 weeks of testing, a couple of days here and there. So we take these scores, and from there we have intervention plans we have celebrations, and we'll get into more of that as we go through the presentation. The next one is also our process, which again, we'll go into a little bit more detail, but basically they get the scores immediately. Basically the next day, they have the performance of the students, and they do all kinds of analysis, as you see the set of bullet points there in the middle, and then they work with the kids to, like I said, opportunities to accelerate and to celebrate. What did we do well? Where do we need to pick up the slack? What do we need to address before the final exam? And as Dr. Shanetta said earlier, we're not teaching to the test, but it's our job as teachers to make sure the kids are as ready as they can be when they go in to take those tests. So we're going to start with reading language arts, 3rd and 4th grade, and I know there's a lot on the slide. So very simply, if the light bars are the fall performance and the dark bars are the spring performance, okay? And then D and M, which you see up there, that's did not meet. Those are the kids that would be considered failures, I guess you would say. The overall trend that you want to look for is that the green is going down and the other 3 are going up, but more especially the blue and the purple are going up, because that's meets and masters, and that means kids are on grade level or better. So as we go through that, that's the kind of overall trend that you're looking at as we go. So you can see 4th grade looks particularly strong. You can see lots of good growth. You can see we have single digit did not meet, which is what we want to see as well. But both 3rd and 4th grade need to target their did not meets so that they can come up with some intervention plans and keep those numbers below 10 in the dark green bars. So that's what we're looking for there. Next we have 5th and 6th grade. So 5th and 6th grade look fantastic, good strong projections for these kiddos. They have did not meet the green bars. You can see the nice drop in that. That means the kids are being more successful or projected to be more successful. And you see, like in particular in 6th grade, a doubling of the kids who are at master's level. That's an outstanding accomplishment for those teachers and for their kiddos as well. So next we have 7th and 8th grade. 7th and 8th grade, very similar strong trends. You see the blue and the purple are showing some growth, and you might look at the 7th and you're like, oh my gosh, we went from 36 to 10 on meets. Yes, but we went from 37 to 75 in masters. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of drop that you want to see, one that's accompanied by a nice big growth spurt on the other side. Okay. So how do things like that happen? What happens when they take those spring tests, and now when they take the fall tests and then the spring tests, what they're doing is they're progress monitoring students on a daily basis. There's coaching support. All of our instructional coaches go over this data with the teachers. We help target interventions for those students. We help the students that are doing well maintain their performance levels. And again, you always want to get those green bars into the single digits. That's a very good place to be. Okay, and then finally we have English 1 and 2. These 2 tests are probably the more difficult ones in the gamut of what a STAR test is. English 2 is probably one of the hardest tests for this kids to pass. But we have good strong numbers here, as you can see again. The teachers have done a lot to really help the students be successful. Those are good projections for the test, which was actually on Tuesday. So we're just waiting. We won't get results until late May, like the very end of May. We'll get the first set of preliminary results. When I say these tests are difficult, I just wanted to share something with you about what I mean by difficult. So for example, in English 1 and 2, in order to get an approaches score last year, you had to get 44% of the questions right, okay? Algebra, on the other hand, you only had to get 34% of the questions right to pass. So that's a much higher threshold for the kids in English than it is for math. For masters, it's much closer, it's 56 and 54 for algebra, but for meets, for masters in English 1 and 2, to get that dark purple bar, you have to have 84% of the questions right. By contrast, math, you only have to have 69%. So the thresholds for English are always higher than math, but I wanted to point that out because that's not something that a lot of people know, that English thresholds are much higher. So that's English 1 and 2, but they look good. We're hopeful. The kids all tested on Tuesday, and God bless Cambium, our testing vendor. We had some issues, but they're all fixed, so, or they say so. So they blamed it on Google, Google blamed it on them, and it was a thing. So that was English. Math will be on May 1st. Okay. So we have a little bit more time before math, but these are the projections from February. So you see when you're looking at it, we have, 3rd grade has a little bit of an issue that they need to work on, but these results, remember, are from February, which means that the kids and the teachers have had 6 weeks to work on, and actually probably more because, as I just said, math is not until May 1st. So closer to 7 weeks of time to target, intervene, go over what they needed to go, reteach if they need to. So they want to close those gaps by now so that those kids can perform. And we have, very strong hopes. Still the master's numbers are still very good, and so are the meets numbers. Math 5th and 6th, we have very good results. We have nice, strong master's numbers. 5th grade close to half, 6th grade just over half of the kids are mastering their levels. Our district math coach, Morgan McIntyre, has worked with the teachers all year long in a book study called Math DNA. And one of the things that they have been working on is something called TQEs, which means teach, question, and evaluate. And I think, this is my opinion, I think that a lot of that looking in on how kids are performing and responding to questions, that real deep dive that they've done this year has really helped with some of these numbers. I think you're really starting to see the impact our instructional coaching program has, and their relationships with teachers and the teachers' relationship with kids to get these kind of numbers, okay? Because we all know what people say about math. So the next one has 3 grade levels, 7th, 8th, and Algebra 1. And we see enormous potential in these nice, tall blue and purple bars, as you would say. The thing I particularly want to point out on these slides is, HB 2124 said that you have to have an advanced math program starting next year. Well, ours is already in place, and we have excellent numbers. So a lot of these kids who are in 6th grade are taking 6th grade math, but the 7th graders and the 8th graders are taking 8th grade math and Algebra 1. And most of you were not around at this time. Mr. White was as a parent, but in the past, Algebra 1 used to be the absolute worst performance in the entire district. Our numbers, truthfully, were abysmal in Algebra 1, and this is where we are today, with a 61% projected to master. So we've come a long way. The next ones are a little bit different. This is science. Remember, science and social studies are only given one time because they are more cumulative. They're always given closer to the test. So these results are from February and March, okay? So we see strong projections across the board. All 3 of them look good. We have good, strong master's numbers. Obviously, we have some work to do in 5th grade again. But the thing that a lot of people don't realize about 5th and 8th grade is they are tested over 3 years worth of content. Okay? 5th graders are responsible for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade content all on one test. 8th graders are responsible for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade content. And if you can think, I mean, if you're anything like me, I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone what I learned in class, 3 years before. Okay? So the teachers do a lot of work, and then these results really help them start to target from March and April. Okay? And as Dr. Shanetta said, if you're praying, you can pray because the 8th graders and the biology students are taking their test right now. And 5th grade is next week.
And Ms. Fuller, if I may interject.
Absolutely.
Educating 5th graders won't see this test again until their 8th grade year.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Correct.
there'll be a 3-year difference until they see that 8th grade test again.
But they'll be held responsible for all that information.
Exactly.
Next is social studies. We only have 2 tested grade levels. 8th grade had some work to do, and the instructional coach has been working very closely with the teacher. They're working on pacing and classroom. Remember, the test was in February, so they have 2 months basically to work on social studies. They're working on monitoring classroom learning, making sure that the teacher is responding in the acquisition of learning process, so that he can address things as they happen, working on a lot more student-centered teaching and those kind of things. So again, you see the impact of the instructional coaches. I mean, their fingerprints are everywhere in this data, and then that's a good thing. So social studies, we're just working on doing improvements. By the way, also, 8th grade social studies is probably the 2nd hardest test. And the reason for that is you're asking 8th graders to read arcane language all through the test because it's all early U.S. history. It's constitutional language, it's the Bill of Rights, it's all those documents that are written in that arcane language, and they have to read it and interpret it on the test. So it can be a little bit of a challenge. I've heard many people say it's a reading test more than a social studies test. So just to be transparent, but we do work on it and help those kids to be as successful as we can. These next 2 slides are just a comparison. So the first column is our percentage of masters, which you've seen already. And then the next is what the region 20, and I told you this in the fall, this is 88 districts across Bexar County who we're comparing to. So every place that you see an up arrow in the FSH column, that means we were higher than the region. Okay? Why don't we have the state up there? Because we don't get state reports for interim data. So we did that. So you will see a very consistent row of up arrows on this slide and on this slide. So we are outperforming our peers currently, or we are projected to outperform our peers. And on the next slide, same thing. So even with the social studies, which is probably our area of work, we still had 29% masters compared to 23% for the region. So really good work. But what does that mean? This slide's a little out of date because we're in the middle of testing season, but what they've been doing is, as I said, the ICs continue to help students goal set, track. They look at local assessments and see how they're doing. Are they on track for masters and meets and those kind of things? They develop strategies for Tier 1, which is like classroom work, but also Tier 2 and Tier 3, kids who get pulled for intervention to target their weak areas. The focus is always going to be on kids who did not meet and then kids who don't seem to be growing. Because sometimes you have kids who are never going to pass the test because of maybe cognitive disability or something, but that doesn't mean you just say, well, that's what's going to happen. You still want them to grow and learn throughout the year. And so even if a kid did not meet, the state has introduced a new demarcation since last year. There's now low did not meet and high did not meet. So even if we can get the kids to go from low to high, that's an accomplishment for a lot of these students. So we always want to focus on kids. We're never going to write a kid off, ever. They set individual growth goals, which I just spoke about. Special education, making sure that what's written into the student's IEP is matching what's happening in the classroom. And then finally, we just want to remind you that we didn't leave the little kids out just because they don't take a STAR test, which they don't need to be doing. They do not need to be taking STAR tests. They do take all kinds of assessments to track their reading and their math proficiency. So, that is my report.
Cool.
Questions?
So you utilize 10% for the did not meets as a kind of a target. Is that based off in our district, or is that kind of like based off of a state assessment?
That's based off of Dr. Shanetta.
Oh, okay.
We like to see 0.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, that's
Single
what we're trying.
digits.
Every student on grade level or above.
Right.
right.
So once you start seeing the do not meets and approaches, they should be shrinking over time. And your meets and your masters should be going up,
Should be
which is
going
what
up.
you see, not in all areas,
Mhm.
but in the majority of the areas. And remember, masters is above grade level, so we are in the double digits, so we have a high percentage of kids that are above grade level.
Mhm. That is very important
Yeah,
to
so
articulate.
we need to address their needs. And then on the other end, it's the special ed, because those numbers that you see at do not meets, most of them, when you study their data, individual kids, they're in our special programs. So making sure, as you'll see, they have the right materials, they have the special ed teachers have the right supports, they have special ed coaches now. So this Friday, the coaches and I will be digging with Lori into special ed interim data, because we want to see if we're getting growth in the 1 year that we've had these coaches. So we'll be looking at that tomorrow.
Taking a targeted approach to our special ed program just goes back to the talk about, as we continue to preach about all kids. That's what we care about, all kids.
All kids.
And to target them specifically to make sure that there's equity and equality for learning is what we're about.
Correct.
So I appreciate you guys putting that together. Good stuff.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller.
Thank you. Good. Thanks, Ms. Fuller. Like, camera action. Somebody else. Agenda item 12 is a selection of the district mathematics instructional curriculum. The superintendent recommend adopting a new math curriculum for grades K through 12 as presented.
Dr. Schnetter, good afternoon, and you have a comment.
It is the Dr. Shanetta and Ms. Fuller show.
All right, I've said.
Good morning. So there's 2 separate agenda items that deal with the area of curriculum. And as you'll see, one of your duties as school board members is to approve district curriculum. So Ms. Fuller and I want to make sure you have a clear understanding of the work that the district has put into coming forward to you with recommendations, but also the state's TEA and the legislature and their change of direction. Okay, so I want to make sure you guys have all the information. So we're going to start with math. Okay, so I live in this graphic. And the way that I explain is it's very important that teachers have a guaranteed and viable curriculum. The curriculum is the what they teach. So under, you see written curriculum, and that is what we're going to ask you guys to approve today for math, and then on the other agenda for science, and the reasons why. The written curriculum, teachers do not have a say in. And that's because it's based off of the state standards. Teachers were not taught how to write curriculum. We are not curriculum writers. We are not. We teach the curriculum. So the taught curriculum is where the art of teaching comes in, right? They know their kids, they have their written curriculum, and they spend their time learning the curriculum and planning on how they're going to teach it. So they do have autonomy in that area. That's where the art comes in, right? The written curriculum is the science of how kids learn. Then you have the assessed curriculum. Teachers don't have a say over assessed curriculum either, because the state requires a state assessment. We have different types of assessment. You saw the interim assessment as one. We have formative assessments. They're assessing probably every 10 minutes. if not in a classroom, right? And so they know their kids, they know their data. We need to make sure that we provide them with a written curriculum, and that's where you guys come in, okay? So curriculum alignment does matter. If you have one of those out of place, you'll have gaps in how kids are learning, and you see that because steadily across the board, we have 30 to 40% of the kids that are not on grade level. So from a curriculum standpoint, I have to look at the what first, okay? And now TEA is in the curriculum business because of that reason. This is a slide that came out through House Bill 1605 in the last legislature. It is the components of a full subject tier 1 instructional material. And I'm going to have a moment. I want you to look at the circle. And what's around that circle is the reason why teachers are not curriculum writers. They don't have enough hours in their days to write curriculum. Okay? So you will hear tier 1 is your core instruction. It has nothing to do with your intervention outside. It's core tier 1 instruction. If you have a very strong core tier 1 instructional program, you will put interventionists out of business. And that's what we're trying to do, right? That's what we're trying to do. And so we are looking now on instructional materials. House Bill 1605 has been deemed the curriculum bill. So in my world, school districts are all trying to be in compliance with this House bill. We are in compliance. It begins next school year. But it is our job to provide to teachers a full-fledged tier 1 curriculum in the foundation courses beginning next year, which are your core classes, okay? And so, so that's what we're coming to you with. We already have it in English. We have it in HMH is our main curriculum, and we have been using that. I'm sorry, I have my allergies. And so we have been looking at materials to make sure we have all of these components, okay? So now I'm going to turn it over to Lori to talk to you about all the work we've been doing with math. If you remember last year we came to you, we applied for the Texas Education LASSO grant, Learning Accelerated School Opportunities, to build a math framework and to look at research-based instructional strategies and to look at our current materials. And we have done that, and so that's what we're coming forward to you with. Ms. Fuller?
So as Dr. Shanetta said, that's the August to December bar right there. We worked with the teachers on the LASSO Learning Acceleration Support Opportunity Grant. And of course, it was funded to help the recovery from COVID. That's where that money was coming from, and that's what's due. You know, we all know how the performance levels fell after the COVID pandemic. So that's what that came from. So the framework, the RBs, which are the research-based instructional strategies, that all came from the LASSO work. But they also went over with teachers about how do you choose an HQIM? How do you choose a high-quality instructional material? You know, because we were doing all this work before the TEA 1605 circle came out. They were already expecting us to do this work, so the LASSO grant helped us to do that in the fall semester. So the next one is in April. The elementary math teachers visited Lytle ISD just down the road. They are a TEA Learning Lab site, which means, so they were 2 years ahead of us with their LASSO work, and they volunteered to let people come in and visit. So we took 11 math teachers from the elementary school. We took three instructional coaches, yes, and then we took the principal and the APs. And we all went and we spent the day visiting classrooms, looking at it in action. Okay? And Eureka is only through 5th, and they only have Eureka. That's why the middle and high school teachers were not with us on this trip. So we did that, and then this month, we narrowed our choices down and made our final choices. And then in May, when the ordering system opens up again, Coach, I'll never stop calling him Coach, Mr. Boehm will order the materials when the system opens. He's our textbook coordinator per se.
So this district committee that we had, the majority of it was math teachers. And what they saw through this work was a need to have a lateral, all the way up instructional framework on math. And I'm going to tell you guys, the way that kids learn math now is not the way that Dr. Shanetta or any of you around this table learned math. Okay? what students are expected to know and be able to do on these math questions, it's not easy. So what they saw, the teachers saw, was a need for curriculum, that they didn't have that tier one that they didn't have that, right? They had pieces of it, and they were creating their own stuff and doing their own stuff, so they saw the need for that. So we involved math teachers in this process a lot. And when we went to Lytle, it was our second visit, and I'm gonna tell you, their student population is very different than ours, but our focus was to focus on the use of materials and how teachers and kids felt. And for teachers to say that I've been given back the gift of time, that I don't have to spend all these hours outside of my workday creating things and looking for things, because everything I have is right here, and that I'm gonna stay in this profession. And for kids to say that the learning that I got was I had to unteach my dad how to do this math because he wasn't teaching it to me right, and that they like math, I would have put any of our kids in any of their classrooms I walked into those 2 visits. So for me, and I have samples of the curriculum if you'd like to see it, it gives the teacher everything they need. Now what they're gonna do is apply their art and the knowledge of their kids in how to, and we have to support them in how to teach it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next slide.
We're such a good team because like I'm just the facts ma'am and she's like got stories. So that's so what we have here is this is the vision that the math committee wrote. There were 15 math teachers on the entire committee, 7 instructional coaches, and then campus and district admin. And so the first one is that the paw is the logo that they came up with. And it was great. They brought in some samples, and the committee was like, yeah, your samples are okay, but what if we did this? So we kind of took what they gave us and they created, which is actually kind of unique because a lot of the districts that work with the vendor, it's the vendor's responsibility to come up with the logo for branding. So we really kind of took it and made it our own. The paws, the toes, I guess you would say, the toes are the RBs, and I'll talk about those in a minute, but consistent instruction, productive struggle, depth of key concepts, and coherence of key concepts. Those are the basis for which we need to teach our kids in. And I just wanted to remind you that we also have that advanced math track. It becomes official next year, but we've been doing it already. So that's written into it's baked into the recipe there.
And I think going down the road, what you'll see us come to you guys with, we'll also be doing this same work with literacy. So we'll pull together reading teachers district-wide and create a vision, a framework like this, and then what are the best research-based practices that you should be seeing when you're going into reading classes. We plan to also do this with science and then social studies. But we started with math because if you also look at our data, you saw our reading data. We're very strong. Our kids can read. It's that math piece that you see more gaps in, right? And so, so having this LASSO grant was very helpful for us.
So these are the RBs, and these are the beliefs that have become the beliefs of our math instructional framework. So the bolded print that's everybody who's done RB's LASSO work, those are the RBs. But what you see in the print is what our teachers wrote for our students. So for example, in consistent instruction, it talks about balancing conceptual understanding and procedural skills. The math DNA book study that they did also focused on the same thing. Like, I don't know, do any of you know what FOIL? If I say, can you do FOIL, do you know what that means?
Nope.
No.
What does it mean?
Front, outside, inside, last.
Okay,
Would you like to come
when
to
did you learn that? When did you learn that?
8th grade.
You still remember it. Not that I'm saying it could have been just last year. Okay, but things like FOIL and butterfly multiplication, what was happening is kids are learning those things. They have no idea why they're doing them. Okay, so why do I, when I divide a fraction, turn it upside down and multiply? Why do I do that? The kids didn't know, they just knew what to do. What was happening then is, as math got harder and they didn't understand what they were doing, they only knew the procedure, they didn't understand the concept, then they started to lose it. And so that's what consistent instruction aims to fix. Okay? Under depth of key concepts, What we're mostly looking for is in that first line where it says multiple opportunities. We want to make sure that the kids see it in lots of ways, practice it in lots of ways. Under coherence of key concepts, what we're looking for is connectedness. We're looking for connections to the previous day. And what you'll see, especially like when we toured at Lytle, is every lesson begins with what did we learn yesterday? What did we learn in the last unit? What did we learn in the last month? What did we learn? Whatever. Okay? You always have to keep that coherence building so kids understand the roadmap they're on. Okay? And then finally, we have productive struggle. Productive struggle is making kids figure it out on their own, but making sure they don't get so frustrated they quit. Okay? It's a really cool thing to see. And when we were in Lytle, to see these kids, like you would walk in a classroom, have no idea where the teacher was, because the kids were just everywhere in groups, talking to each other, helping each other, practicing, checking, going up, teaching their peers. It was a great thing, and we hope to see all of that come to fruition here. Anything on that one?
No, so these research-based instructional strategies, when we're looking at the various instructional materials that were out there, we look through this lens of whether these RBs were in the curriculum. When you look at the curriculum we're proposing to you in the areas, different areas, it gives the teacher the questions to ask. It gives the teacher the accommodations to do for kids with special needs. It just gives them a lot more than what they had in the past, right? So if you have a new teacher, or whether you have an experienced teacher, it's a guide, and it gives them everything they need. So they don't need to go to Google and search for an activity. They don't need to spend the time creating things. It's there, and they can make it their own.
Okay. So these are the courses that we are presenting you with. For K-5 is Eureka, 6 through Algebra 1 is going to be Maneuvering the Middle, and for Geometry and Algebra 2, which are the only ones, are Carnegie Learning.
So teachers asked me if they had to have the same vendor all the way up, and I told them no. In a lot of school districts, it'll be a curriculum department. This is the curriculum department, and they recommend, right? Teachers don't have input. We've worked really hard with the teachers here for them to have input in our math and science stuff, right? And so we've done our curriculum adoptions or whatever very different than what we've done in the past. Eureka only goes through 5th grade, okay? Maneuvering in the Middle, they've been using it already here, but not to the degree they need to be using it, so they want to use it more. And then Geometry and Algebra 2 will be Carnegie Learning. We also will have some new upper level math teachers coming to us, so we want to make sure they have what they need. So we're coming forward to you for you guys to approve our math curriculum with these vendors. And we will move forward, and we will start supporting these teachers in how to use them unit by unit in their PLCs and on their curriculum on our PD days. So they will have a lot of support. The vendor's just not going to come in and do a one-day training, because that's what happens in schools. They come in, they do a training in August, and they leave, and it's up to a teacher. If you look at the curriculum, you will understand how in-depth curriculum is. You cannot expect a teacher to be left on their own just to figure it out. So this is what we're asking for your approval for math. Any questions for Ms. Fuller? Yes, ma'am.
I do. I'm trying to make sure that I heard you say, although this is, the teachers will be giving that step by step, they do still have some element to where they're able to put their expertise into
Yes, so that's the art of teaching.
Okay.
So they have the lessons unit by unit, and then what they do is they internalize the lesson, and they know their kids best, and then they adapt it to how it goes out.
Okay.
But what's interesting to me is that whether a kid is in a 3rd grade resource room for special ed, or whether they're in a general ed classroom, they're getting the exact same unit, the exact same content. Now, the special ed teacher is going to do what? Break it down, do things like that, right? The general ed teacher is going to do what with the advanced kids? Maybe go deeper into questions, little things like that. Every kid is getting the same grade level content in every 3rd grade math classroom, which is a huge, huge shift, and I believe is key in closing our gaps. Is I believe that the curriculum is missing in probably every school district in the nation. And I know, because TEA is now in the curriculum business, and that's the reason why. Is because there's a gap, and we're not closing it. And so I believe that what is missing, and teachers are not curriculum writers. They don't have enough stuff.
I just didn't want them to not be able to use their
Oh, of course, yeah.
knowledge and expertise when it came to, I don't wanna call it a canned
No.
curriculum, but if you're giving me everything, do I have to
Correct.
follow it?
So this is their
Sentence by
curriculum,
sentence.
so they're gonna follow the order of this curriculum. And they all know that, and they're okay with that. I need you to also understand the state in the House Bill 1605 gave the authority back to the State Board of Education to deem materials high quality, and they will start with reading and math. They're doing it now. And so by mid-year next year, they will come out with a list for school districts of what is deemed high quality. That circle I showed you with that full tier 1. Eureka and Carnegie have been their pilots since COVID. So they've been working with these vendors, and they've been making it adaptable to our state. So they've been their guinea pigs since COVID. So I am 99.9999% that those two will be on the list. So school districts will have an option to use what's on their list or not. If you choose what's on their list from the vendors, right, that they've deemed high quality, you will be funded for it. If you do not, then local school districts will have to fund. And curriculum is expensive, right? And so what are all the vendors doing in the state right now? They're all freaking out, and they're all trying to get through this approval process for TEA. So that's a shift here in House Bill 1605. But TEA is not coming down and saying you have to use this, but they're making it worth your while to do, if that makes sense, right? Yeah, because they know the need for a quality curriculum. You could be an amazing teacher, but if you don't got the curriculum, you're not hitting everything you're supposed to be hitting. And you're definitely not giving it to them on grade level.
So do you have statistics from Lytle? I think that's where you say you went.
So-
Before and after.
You mean, they're in their 3rd year, so
Okay.
they've had growth, but their data, their population of at-risk, they're at 90-something%. It's just a different population. For me, TEA noted certain schools in the state of Texas, and Lytle was the closest to us to go visit, and I wanted to take the math teachers on the committee, and so I took them out there and I said, don't focus on their stats, I guess, if that means, focus on how they're using the materials and what you're seeing kids doing, and talk to the teachers. And so, they had a really good visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a meeting this weekend with the Texas Caucus of Black School Board members, and math, there's lots of challenges there. And so I think this is a great program, and it's gonna help all the kids.
I think it's gonna help close the gaps.
Mhm.
I think, we keep working, we work so hard. So work harder, not smarter,
No smarter,
I mean, I'm
not
sorry,
harder.
I'm on a lot of,
I get
my allergies didn't come out right, that was probably recorded. Okay, so, but it's just, I think that's the missing piece, does that make sense? We have coaches to support the materials, right? We have coaches to help teachers. So now it's the what, do they have the what? And they'll tell you they don't have the what. So our job is to give them the what. So we're doing that in math. We already have it in RLA. We've had HMH, and you can tell by our data. It's the math and the science that's got some missing pieces. So we're gonna fix that, right? So we're asking for your approval. Any other questions?
I've got a comment. I
Yes,
think,
sir.
looking at this, I think the concept framework is well put together, so thank you for that.
Okay.
Additionally, I mean, aside from the curriculum itself, this has the potential to carry over into students' daily lives and decision-making in the future.
Productive
If they know
struggle.
the why behind it, rather than, as you said earlier, just going through the motions and doing it versus understanding
Understanding it.
the backstory,
Yeah.
so to speak. So, yeah, it's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. So that was my second iteration of learning from that. But I get it now. I get it. And I will state that, I really wasn't in tune with teachers creating curriculums. And I didn't know, I wasn't being transparent. I didn't know that teachers were, not really designed to create curriculums. And so now that we're going to not only provide them with that, curriculum development. We're gonna teach it. We're gonna support it. And now that small percent, what's important is that small percent of students that we need to close the gap on, that's gonna help do so.
Correct.
And versus saying, hey, we're doing great. We're above state. We're masters. We're above state. Regional levels. But we want to be better. And see, that's what's important. I think people miss that. It's the small things that you guys continue to do. And Dr. Sizer spoke on that when she stated how well and what she appreciated how the leadership of this organization, of this school district, and the district with the staff in itself, you keep finding ways to make it better. That doesn't happen in many school districts. It just doesn't happen. You keep finding ways to make it better versus covering up. You're showing where we're short at versus covering up. Show me what's bad and then tell me what you're gonna do about it. And so, I caveat on what she stated. It's just, I'm really proud, to see what you guys are doing. And I'm thankful that you continue to show the transparency. That means everything. Because education means everything. And closing the gap and equity and all kids having the same opportunity to learn the same material and be taught the same way with the teacher spin on it is a really good thing. So I really appreciate it. You taught me a lot. Thank you. All right, was there any other comments, board members? Hearing none, is there a motion for this agenda item?
Mr. President, I recommend adopting the new math curriculum for grades K through 12 as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
I, Latoya Sizer.
I, Andrea Nicholas.
Hi, Richard.
I, Willie White. The majority vote, the motion passes. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Agenda item 13 is a recommendation to approve the Proclamation 2024 purchase of science adoption materials. The superintendent recommend adopting the science curriculum for grades K through 12 as presented.
Okay, science, let me give you a little bit of background for science. Next year, we will have new state standards, so new TEKS, okay? Science, as Ms. Fuller showed you, is tested in grades 5, 8, and biology, but kids take science every year, right? So we need to make sure we have a strong curriculum that is aligned all the way up from pre-K on, right? So we need to make sure that they have the right materials. Again, with House Bill 1605, it is our job, we are required to give a teacher, if you'll go to the next slide, a full tier 1, so all these components. Remember, they have not deemed anything high quality yet. The state board will start, and they'll start with reading and math. Nowhere is science even being talked about yet, or social studies, right? So with us having new TEKS and the teachers they need something, we thought, you know what, might as well do it all, math and science together. And also we have the funding for the proclamation through IMAT funds to also do this work, okay? So we're gonna talk about how we involve teachers in the process and what the process looked like, and then we're gonna come forward with their recommendations also for you.
First of all, thank you for approving the math. I
Yes,
mean,
thank you.
we have very high hopes, so. The next one, there's a lot of words on here. This is just the state process for how we get to where we are right now. What you need to pay attention to most is the little tiny sentence in the middle there. Proclamation 2024 is for the adoption of K Science 12. So that's why we are where we are, and Dr. Shanetta explained the new TEKS already to you. And then the bottom piece is just our local information about that it's your job to help us with the selection and approve the adoption. And then also the Instructional Materials Technology Allotment, or IMTA. We also have a team, and they reviewed the final recommendations that came from the campuses, and now we're here to present them to you. So same kind of thing. What we did is we pulled all the teachers together that teach science in December of 2023. And then we had, of the whole team, that we had the introduction to. We pulled our committee together, and we reviewed the process, what rubrics they should be using. We used Texas Resource Review rubrics to evaluate all the materials. We gave them a timeline, and we reviewed a lot of the HB 1605 HQIM, along with some of the other definitions of what HQIM really means. Because believe it or not, in the process of doing this HQIM work, TEA still had not, at December, had not even fully given us a definition. So we were just working with what we could gather. In January, so the committee itself is 14 science teachers, 6 coaches, and administrators. So very heavily based on what's happening in the classroom, and their voice was loud and clear in this process. In January, they began the reviews. They went to Region 20. They looked at 18 different vendors for science. Not everybody looked at everything, but that's a lot of stuff to get through. They used the Texas Resource Review rubrics. That's hard to say a million times. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. And then the coaches in PLCs led them through more in-depth dives into the materials. And as vendors started to rise to the top, they looked at those even deeper. Okay. Then in February and April, we started ranking and recommending. We didn't, the teachers did. We did not have any part of this process at all. It all happened on the campus. And then in March, the teachers of the science committee were introduced to curriculum-based professional learning using a high-quality science material. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this step in a minute because it's very important. And then we just got IMTA approval for the curricula that we're going to present to you in a moment. So this is just a snapshot of the Texas Resource Review rubric so that you know what Texas looked at and where we started. So we're looking for 100% alignment in the red bar. That means that it teaches all the TEKs. Okay? If it doesn't teach all the TEKs, why would you even look at it? Okay? And then it looked at content and instructional approach. This goes back to those RVs again. What kind of approach do we have? What's our instructional framework? Purple is educator supports, and that's all those things in the circle that Dr. Shanetta showed to you. You know, what can we provide teachers with so they're not going home and getting on the internet and trying to find and fill all the gaps? You give it all to them, they don't have to spend all their other time doing that. Okay? And then finally, supports for students, things like how do we support our GT learners? How do we support our EB students? Our responsibility is to teach the entire spectrum of students in our classroom. But if a curriculum comes with ways that you can do that, it's so much easier for a teacher to say, yeah, I can do that with my GT kids. I can accelerate this. I can scaffold here. And it doesn't have to come all from experience. I mean, experience is invaluable, but sometimes new things come up that we can't all keep up with because of everything on our plate. So it's a really good place to be. And then they all got the Texas Resource Review is all scored by the State Board of Education, but our teachers independently scored all their vendors as well. Okay. The next one is, this is our big thing, curriculum-based professional learning. So on March 5th and 6th, the people who were all listed, they're the science committee, etc. We did a day-and-a-half deep dive into what high-quality instructional materials look like and how you use them through curriculum-based professional learning, which means you are taking all of those materials and you are experiencing it like a student would experience it. And as you're working through it from a student's perspective, you're learning what's going to trip my kids up and how do I address that. You anticipate questions so that when they come up in class the next week, you know how to answer those kids. You are stringing concepts together. Remember in the RVs, we're talking about how is it connected to what we did yesterday? How is it connected to the last week, the last unit, the last year? Okay? That continuity of content is so important to our kids to build that deep and solid understanding. And then we also talked about managing change. This is very new. It may not seem like it, but this is very new stuff. There are not a lot of districts doing this. This is kind of cutting edge, I dare say, of really immersing teachers in the student experience so that they come out on the other end as better teachers. Okay? And that goes back to your question. That's where that art is cultivated in this process. So we went through all of that work, and then that brings us to our adoptions. So this is what we are proposing. K to 5 is McGraw-Hill, 6 to 8 is Green Ninja, and Summit K-12 is the upper, and those are the 4 courses that we'll be adopting for science.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about K through 5. It is the responsibility of, district, curriculum department to make recommendations, right? But we wanted teacher input. And what they told me was they've never had so much input before. So they were very happy about it. K through 5, they first asked, do I have to have the same vendor, just like we did in math? I said no, because I wanted them to look at everything and analyze it through 2 rubrics, Texas Resource Review and Next Gen Science Standard Review. And they took the time, obviously, they took the time to do it. So I told them to rank their top, right? McGraw-Hill was not the number 1 for K through 2. It was not. It was up there, but it wasn't number 1. So then I met with the instructional coaches on both of them, and we went through McGraw-Hill again. I made the decision to have the same one for K through 5, and that is because of the vertical alignment. I also have to have coaches and teacher lead facilitators master McGraw-Hill for each grade level and teach the teachers how to use it. So if I had 2 different ones, right? And also, if you notice, our 5th grade science scores, we need to work on those. And one of the reasons is the pre-K through 4, we need the same thing, and we need to support it vertically. So I made the decision to go with McGraw-Hill, and they know, and they're okay. But that wasn't their number 1 choice. It was grades 3 through 5, and they all said, well, grade 5 is tested, so we're okay, let them McGraw-Hill. But I just wanted transparency to let you know that. Again, Green Ninja, it's an interesting name, but it's impressive stuff. They're all 100% aligned to the standards. Remember, these are new standards next year. So if teachers think they can go back and use all the stuff they had before, they're in for a big job. But they've all the science teachers have gone to the new TEAG training at Region 20. That was one of the requirements we had for them. So they're ready. So we're going to support them with curriculum-based professional learning. We're going to go unit by unit with them the first year. We're going to teach them how to use it. We're going to support them through the coaching of it. And it's going to be something different. It's a major change. But House Bill 1605 requires that we give them everything they need to teach. And that is what we're doing. And we're going to support them through it. We're not just going to have Green Ninja come out and wear a uniform and feed them and say, here's your training, and leave them alone. I promise you that. So we're asking for your approval for these 3 adoptions. Any questions?
Are there additional support services using these from the vendors? Like,
no, Lori's been meeting with all of them on their professional development, and she just laughs because what we're asking them, we're going to contract out with a think tank. There's several in the country that do this kind of work called curriculum-based professional learning, and they're going to help us draw up the vision and teach our facilitators how to do this work. We're going to use the vendors to do the PD so we understand what's in the material, but the learning how to do it, that's not them. They're in the business of selling. But we will use them to show us everything and how it works, but the actual internalization of unit by unit and all that, it's going to be our own people, and we'll use an outside organization to support that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
You're welcome. So hopefully you'll see great things, continue to see great things in math and science.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Great job. Were there any other comments, board members? Hearing none, do we have a motion for this agenda item?
Mr. President, I recommend the board adopt the science curriculum for grades 1 through 12 as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
I, Richard Quinn.
I, Latoya Thompson.
I, Andrea Nicholas.
Aye, Willie White. Majority vote, the motion passes. Agenda item 14, consideration and possible action to submit new resolutions for the Texas Association of School Board, TASB, 2024 through 2026 advocacy agenda. I'd like to, for the record, state that the Board of Trustees does not have any resolutions to submit for the TASB 2024 through 2026 advocacy agenda. Therefore, there would not be any action taken on this agenda item. Agenda item number 15 is discussion and possible action to reconsider board policy BD local board meetings, public participation. Excuse me. For the record, due to the fact that the board member that the board member wishing to speak on this agenda item is not present, this agenda item will be tabled for the next meeting to allow the board member the opportunity to resubmit this agenda item and discuss at our next meeting. Agenda item 16 is closed meeting as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551.074, personnel matters. The time is now 1:03 p.m. We will move into closed session.